One of the biggest challenges when I communicate with people is uh, leading millennials. When entrepreneurs grow their businesses and now they have to employ people, often their team is made up of, what we call Generation Y or millennials. And when I ask them, or when I ask people, what's the first word that comes to mind when you hear millennials or Generation Y? And what are the challenges that you've experienced working with millennials? Often there's frustration, um, things like they're entitled, they're spoiled, they don't want to work, and things like that. So what I want to do in this video is to just discuss how do you manage or how do you lead millennials in the workplace? How do you work with millennials and how do you lead millennials? So it's important to understand that millennials is a generation that is born, mainly in the tech era, in the technology space, in the computer technology space. And that's mainly what makes them different from the previous generations, is that there's a vast difference in what they have been exposed to and what the previous generations have been exposed to. And the main difference is that they are growing up in the tech space. They are growing up in a globalized world. So they pretty much are aware of what's happening globally because they're connected. And therefore, they think differently, they approach things differently. So how do you deal with millennials? How do you work with them? How do you lead them, given the fact that they are vastly different from you, right? And it's important to also understand that the workplace is increasingly being populated by millennials, by young people, by millennials. And in Africa, for instance, you have a continent which is predominantly a youth populated continent, which means more and more of these young people are joining the workplace. So I want to discuss 7 ways to lead millennials, or how to work with them, or how to interact with them in the workplace. Number 1, put relationships before role. What millennials really are interested in knowing is, do you really care about them? Do you connect with them? They value relationships. If they can connect with you and you can connect with them and you can have a very good relationship with them, then you can get the work done. I don't know how much you know until I know how much you care. That is their attitude. Do you care about me? What's important is do you care about me? Relationship building is very, very critical. Do they know how much you care about them? Not just as employees, but as people. And you have to be authentic. When you work with millennials, you have to be authentic, build trust, be transparent, and be open with them. Caring is very important. They need to know that you care about them. So be as authentic as possible. Millennials expect you to be upfront when it comes to answering questions, be transparent, be open, practice what you preach, and work on building those trusted relationships with them. So it's very important that they know how you care about them. Being interested does not mean that you are interested in the same things that they're interested in. So it doesn't mean that you need to listen to the same music or wear the same clothes, same fashion as them. Being interested, it just means that you are interested in their activities, asking them how their weekend was, what their extramural activities are, just showing that keen interest. You don't have to dress or talk like them or listen to their music. They don't want you to do that. They want you to be yourself. So number 2, keep them challenged. They get bored very easy. So give them training, give them growth opportunities. When they get bored, they easily disengage and switch off. I can hear you say, yeah, but what if I train them and they leave? Research shows that they usually stay in the workplace, at the most 2.5 years. So, if you train them, and when you train them, just be prepared to keep them for 2.5 years or 3 years. But I would also encourage you to train them, because what you don't want is, you don't want to work with people who stay in your organization untrained. They become a liability to the brand, to your brand. So train them, and if they leave, you know what, it's good for them. And if we all train them, if all of us train them, and they leave me and they join you, for instance, and you have a millennial that you have trained, and he leaves you and joins me. So we, all of us, have trained millennials that are rotating amongst ourselves. So you are basically empowering them, and they want that. They want to be trained. They want to be challenged. So how do you keep them longer? So one of the ways that you can keep them longer is if you give them a project that they can run, maybe a long-term project. So give them a 3-year project and let them own it, let them be accountable for it, and let them run it. And there's a chance that they would want to see that project into fruition. So if it's a 3-year program or 3-year project, they will stay with you for 3 years. So that's how you do that. Number 3, make flexibility a priority. It's important that you don't set up a meeting at 8 o'clock in the morning. They are usually, night owls. So they stay up late because they are connected, they are on their phones. They stay up late, they're chatting with someone on the other part of the world in a different time zone. So, and they sleep very late. So don't expect them to be in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning for a meeting, for instance. So if you want the best out of them, be flexible. So, do they really have to come to the office? That's one of the questions. Do I really have to be in the office? I can do this anywhere. I can do this at home, and I'll be very productive if I do it at home. Or I prefer working at a Starbucks. There's Wi-Fi. I can just plug in my laptop and I can work from there. Do I have to be at the office? So more often, you also want to be flexible. Avoid the trap of speaking the language of flexibility, but subtly punishing those who are flexible and who are pushing the boundaries. And I've seen this happen quite a lot, where people will say, no, here we are flexible. You can work, flexible hours. You can work from home and all those kind of things. But when it comes to promotion, when it comes to performance appraisals, those who don't conform to what you do are subtly punished, and they don't get the recognition they deserve. So you need to be flexible when you work with millennials. Flexible working hours, flexible working spaces. If they're in the office, allow them to plug in their earphones and they can get to the work. So being flexible is very important. Number 4, give regular positive feedback. Millennials thrive on feedback. If you give them positive feedback, they love positive feedback. Managers that I've spoken to feel that millennials are emotionally high maintenance. They always want to be thanked and praised every time. And managers will always say, but why do I have to thank them? I pay them to be here and work, says a frustrated manager. This generation has been raised in the era of self-esteem. They've been told their whole lives that they're special, they're magnificent, they're unique. They the social media generation. They take a picture of their food and they post it on Facebook and they wait for likes. If they feel depressed, they take a selfie, a picture of themselves looking good, and they post it and they wait for likes. And the more likes coming through, they feel much better. So there's a generation that validation is very important to this generation. They are accustomed to receiving extrinsic validation and praise. So research asked millennials how often they want to be praised in a day. 60% says they want to be thanked once a day. So you need to say thank you to them at least once a day. That's 60%. 35% they said 2 or 3 times a day would even be better. So, thank them for coming to work, thank them for doing their work, thank them for being energetic. They love being thanked. They want to be thanked. They thrive on that. And as a leader, you have to be conscious and deliberate about giving them more praise because they are looking for it. So always thank them, pat on the back. Wow, that was great. That was awesome. You killed it. Well done. Congratulations. They thrive on that. And on a daily basis, if you can do it at least once, that would be awesome. Twice or 3 times, even better, right? So as a manager, as a leader, always be open to doing that. Number 5, embrace their ideas. So they just came fresh out of university, tertiary, and they are, having all this lots and lots of amazing ideas. And if you are a company or an organization that values innovation, you want to tap into their fresh perspectives. So they bring this boldness and confidence to change and sometimes even challenge the status quo. They often would ask, why do we do that? Or why do we do it this way? They always, bring these fresh ideas, tap into that, encourage them to open up. And they love that. They're looking for an outlet where they can throw their ideas out there, and those ideas will be well received. So the previous generation, Generation X and the baby boomers, when they joined an organization, they would be very timid and they would want to fly below the radar just to see how things are happening in the office. Millennials are not like that. Millennials are energetic, they are bold. They just as they come, they say, but this doesn't make sense. Why do we have to do that? And things like that. So if you are from the previous generation, you might be frustrated. Don't push back, embrace their ideas, embrace that in their energies. So leaders should leverage on their perspective, on their fresh ideas and insights. Their innovations may actually lead to remarkable things. And if you embrace their ideas, they even take ownership of the projects and they feel empowered. And maybe that way they'll even stay longer, right? So embrace millennials' ideas and give them the space to explore them. Number 6, they are values driven. They have, they have these values. They look for to work with organizations that share their same values. They don't mind turning down a job offer because of the organization's values. For instance, if they don't believe that organization's values, they don't mind saying, maybe not this one, maybe the other one. They consider their personal values very influential when making a decision. So for instance, is your organization, climate change conscious, for instance? Or are you indifferent towards polluting the environment? Such things are important to them. Gender-based violence. What's your stance? What's the organization's stance on gender-based violence, on poverty? So they have these values that they carry with them, and they are always looking for organizations whose values are aligned to their values. So millennials want to work for companies whose values match their own personal values. Research shows that about 86% of millennials will leave a company if the company's values did not match with their own. So they are willing to leave secure jobs with good perks if they feel that their values are compromised. So you want to be upfront about the values of your organization, right? And do you leave those values? So it's important that your values are out there so that you are able to attract the right type of millennials to work for you. So values driven, values are very important to millennials. And then lastly, adopt the role of a coach. Even though they look confident and got it together, the millennials are looking for a mentor. They are looking for a coach. Most of the millennials grew up without a father or a father figure, maybe due to divorce or, other unfortunate circumstances. So they're looking to learn from the wisdom of the older generation. They might look like and sound like they know it all, but deep down they are looking for someone to hold their hands and take them through some of the paces that they need to know. So wisdom has to be shared in a constructive and respectful manner. So when you have meetings with millennials, and you give them feedback, don't avoid the trap of always starting with, when I was your age routine. When I was your age, I used to do this, I was this, and the youth today. So avoid that trap. Mentoring to millennials is critical. They are looking for mentorship. The unfortunate part is that a third of millennials say that the older generation is not interested in engaging with them in the workplace. And that's so sad. So as a leader, you want to set up a culture or a platform where the older generation can impart wisdom to the younger generation. And sometimes even reverse mentoring can happen, where the millennials can bring new or sharper ideas to the older generation. So every generation has something to offer. Millennials, they bring energy and fresh creative ideas, and your job as a leader is to harness that energy and enthusiasm and guide it towards productive breakthrough innovations. And that way you are able to get the best out of the group. So those are 7 ways to lead or manage millennials. Put relationships up front. They are looking for relationships for connection. Number 2, challenge them. They easily get bored, so give them tasks that will challenge them. Number 3, be flexible. Be flexible in terms of working hours, be flexible in terms of working from home, working from the canteen, where they can grab coffee, plug in their earphones, and put in the hours. Number 4, give them regular positive feedback. Acknowledge them, encourage them, say thank you, appreciate them. They are looking for that positive, regular feedback. Number 5, embrace their ideas. As they put their ideas on the table, embrace their ideas. They're fresh and they're brimming with ideas. Embrace those ideas. Number 6, be values driven. Always put your values up front. Always, when you talk about decisions that needs to be taken in the organization, always lean towards what values are you embracing. And lastly, even though they might look that they got it together and they're confident, they're looking for a coach, they're looking for a mentor. Mentor them, coach them in a respectful, more constructive way. Don't chastise them to say they're lazy, they're entitled, they're this or that. They're looking for a coach. So embrace that role and freely share their wisdom that you have with them. They are going to be amazing and come up with amazing ideas. I hope those 7 ways of leading millennials were very helpful, and I want to wish you all the best. Thank you so much.